How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on PGWPatches.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still
Fernurian.
And Volatile, I'm here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, along with whatever other stuff we've been doing during the week, although that might not be all that much. First of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com or by following us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server and chat with us at any time. You can most easily get there by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the No Excuses show logo on any of our recent show posts. Although there's so much spam on the front page, I'm not sure if any of our show posts are up there.
Yeah, I've got to push one to the top, I think. All right.
I'm going to go and forewarn y'all ahead of time. There's a storm outside my house. I have my adapter's little widget on the screen so I can watch the packets as we're doing this show, so I can reconnect as quickly as possible if things start going badly. But we may have a few connection shoes today with me.
We shall see, we shall see. All right, on the stream today, I'm going to play something a little bit new, which I'd rather I didn't, honestly. I'd rather not play this. But it's the MapleStory 2 closed beta.
Why?
I don't know. So I've only played maybe 5 minutes of this game just to make sure everything works properly, which honestly it kind of does. Although they do have funny ideas about pronouns.
I told you not to do it, Fern.
Yeah, I'm doing it anyway, so my suffering is for everyone's entertainment. So,
I warned you, man.
So yeah, for the beta, we've got 8 classes up, so at least that's something. But they've got my dander up already, and I haven't barely even played it, and that is because they were selling Founders Packs. But this being, Nexon, they sold out of Founders Packs. Digital-only items.
Of course, because that makes sense.
Yeah.
They have to actually send you the text file. They have to cut it and paste it. They can't just send you a copy. And it's just a text file that they mail you, and they only have so many of these in a folder.
Yeah. I don't know why, but they only...
this computer also instantly clears its RAM cache every 4 seconds, so it will not stay in memory.
Right. So yeah, they only issued 20,000 of these packs, and they sold out. So I don't know what the point of that was. Okay, you might get people to buy your game or your crap faster, but wouldn't you just rather more people buy it?
If you're not sure it's going to sell in the first place, it's not a bad move to put exclusivity on it, or the illusion of exclusivity on something. Because it'll make it jump off the shelf faster, regardless of how valuable it actually is. It could be a bag of peanuts. If you said there's only 25 in the world, somebody's going to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a limited edition peanut.
Totally short-change peanuts.
It could be a no-name brand of peanuts that you've never heard of, and they could taste terrible, but if there's only 25 of them, somebody's going to get it.
Yeah.
It's marketing 101.
Yep, let me actually see what was in this pack anyway. Let me see. You gotta find it. Except their website is a pain to navigate.
Because they're Nexon.
Yeah.
Sort of their job.
Here it is. I think this is the one. Or one of the ones anyway. I have no idea. This is not really helpful to navigate.
I quit and never played MapleStory because Nexon and how unuser-friendly they are.
Yeah. I'm just going to try and hit random on a character that doesn't, and hopefully come up with something that doesn't look horrendous. Or, well, that. Ugh. Stars and hearts all over his face. Why? Oh, it's you, Narukami. Okay, there we go.
What?
Yeah, the character generator.
I'm totally lost now.
The character generator just got out a character that looks like Charlie Swaglord. That'll do.
My you started Kami.
So here we go. You've got 3 different packages. So apparently they've issued 20,000 of these things in 3 different forms, and I don't think it's 20,000 of each. I think it's just 20,000 combined across all 3. So that's even dumber. So let's see. Base version, you get 30-day premium membership. You get a hat. You get the obnoxious name tag. You get a yucky-looking unicorn. I'm going to just flip this over here. Here we go. You can actually look at it on the screen. It's just very, very bland and dumb looking. You get 2,000 funny money. Moving down, you get a different hat. You get... I don't even know how to describe those costumes. They're horrible. And for some reason, at the top level, you get a poo wrapped in chains. What is that? What even is that?
Okay, for a moment, I thought you meant like a poo from The Simpsons.
No.
I said that too.
No, that would be... Well, that would be confusing, but no, this is a turd, and it's wrapped in chains.
It's Numemon. It's a Digimon crossover you didn't know about.
I'm trying to think. Why? Let's just get off that screen. What is that, and why is this a thing? I am so confused.
Mission accomplished.
Yep.
I warned you, man.
It's a tombstone. So when you die, you leave a tombstone behind. That is your tombstone.
What, a poo?
Yeah, it's called the soft serve tombstone. Right.
Unbelievably disturbing. Thank you, please come again.
Thank you, please come again. Why? So yeah, I'm just going to run this on the stream and see how we go. See what actually is involved in this game. Aside from, of course, opening with the single most cliched opening ever. Like, it opens with the opening book, like that. I mean, come on. Then you get Warring Goddesses and 3 MacGuffins and World of Darkness and It's all stuff we've seen before. Come on, there's no originality here at all. I might be...
Why is it always dark?
I'm probably being overly dismissive of it, and then there's people who really like Maple Story. You're going to hate me for it, but... Yeah.
It's essentially just an exercise on who can code the best bot.
That's what the first one was, definitely. To the point where there's Maple Story M, or I think it was, or Mobius or something, which I had a look at as well. And you can log into that game, you can press a button, and just walk away. It will grind, it will quest, and it will play the entire game for you.
But... Wait, what?
It's a shame, actually, because it controlled reasonably well on a tablet or a mobile device. But then it's got a play this game for me button because I'm lazy and don't want to do anything. Or your game is too grindy button.
I'm deeply confused by this design decision, but I mean, if it makes them money, I guess it made sense to do.
I don't know. This is NCSoft. They can monetize global chat. And have.
I'm quite thoroughly bewildered by everything that I've just heard. Like everything, and for the last, 5-10 minutes, it's just been...
Utter confusion?
Yeah, I don't know where I am or what I'm doing here anymore.
Yeah. So far from the little bit I've played, there's some sort of weird errors in the writing, because all your characters by default are female. So, when you play through the game, people will just randomly call you female, or give you female pronouns, because somebody didn't finish the localization properly, I guess.
Maple Story.
Yeah.
How much you think the localizer got paid to do it? Like, popsicle sticks?
$1.
It was probably an intern.
Yeah. NCSoft has always been a company that's kind of... I'm sorry, not NCSoft, Nexon. Although NCSoft I have my own separate gripes about.
Yes, very much so.
Just the games they release are predatory, I guess. Yeah.
That's a good word for it.
Also garbage.
Well, they're playable, and they look like they could be something if you didn't have to pay $200 billion to try it.
Yeah.
Past like level 15 or whatever. Like, you're not going anywhere after a certain point in these games unless you break out the wallet. And you don't pay them small amounts. You pay them big monies.
Unless you like grinding. I hope you like grinding. Okay. Do I actually... Whoa, hello, what is going on here? My character is just doing their own thing. Okay. Oh boy. Anyway, so aside from this nonsense, it's actually telling me how to move diagonally. That's a... I don't even know what I'm doing here. Okay. Oh. They completely change controls depending on the control scheme. Right, okay. Anyway, my week, I guess. We'll just jump straight into that. Played a bit more Cuphead, and I'm finally got up to King Dice.
Oh, joy.
Mm-hmm. King Dice, I think...
Oh,
yeah, I've figured it out. Although I'm kind of reluctant to game the system because it is a very fun fight, but it's also very, very challenging. And it becomes more of an endurance run the longer you take.
There are some fights in there that I just think are bad that you can get in the dice fight.
Yep.
That I just don't want to get, like the Symbol Monkey.
I have not encountered the Symbol Monkey yet.
You have to play Memory Match.
Ugh.
While fighting the boss and dodging his attacks.
Right. Yeah, some of the bosses I
takes
found...
Takes up the entire screen as well, and it is just too much for your eyes to do.
Yeah. So some of the little mini-bosses I found with him are kind of trivial, like if you keep Smoke Bomb on, the Magic Rabbit becomes pretty easy.
You should have Smoke Bomb on, literally for every single boss.
You should. There is no reason to take it off.
They should have just made it so that you have invincibility frames on your dash to begin with.
Yeah.
Because, that's too good to not have.
Yeah. So, yeah, King Dice I find to be... He's pretty much exactly what a boss or a penultimate boss should be. It's a test of everything you've come up to and done up until that point.
What you're tested on, however, is up to the quite literal dice.
Yes, it is completely random as to which bosses you'll get and which mini-bosses. Some are easy, and like the chips, the stack of chips is completely a joke.
Yeah.
Others, the cigar is probably my bugbear.
The cigar was my easy one. He's the one I always hit on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, his pattern's really easy once you get it down. Because you barely have to move in that fight aside from jumping across the ashtrays.
Yeah, I could not quite get his pattern down. But I found things like Dominoes very easy. The Booze...
Yeah, Dominoes, another stupid easy one.
The Booze boss is annoying.
The Boost boss is my hardest one for him. Out of all the fights, the Boots boss, I think, is the hardest of the mini bosses.
Yeah. It's three bosses.
Because their attacks... Yeah. Their attacks take up so much of the screen.
Yep.
You can judge your dash is really easy in that fight.
Very much so. You can easily dash into something you'd really rather not.
Yeah. Doesn't help that you're relegated to the back quarter of the arena for a good chunk of it due to the Jin dude.
Yeah. Alright, haven't finished it yet. I haven't beaten King Dice because he's proven to be a bit of a stumbling block. Joke.
Have you actually gotten to King Dice himself yet?
No, not yet. I need to go back and have it.
Really easy.
Yeah. I went through and I kind of blitzed the last couple of bosses I had let going. Like the train took a couple of attempts to finish off, but once I got that pattern down, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. When you get to King Dice himself, you're going to die the first time. There's almost no two ways about it, but after that, it's going to be a pushover.
I'm kind of used to that. It's that kind of game.
Yeah, it's just he has a very, very specific trick and gimmick with parries come out. And the first time you see it, you don't quite get what's going on until you see it the second time and it kills you. And you're like, oh, that's really easy. And then you beat him.
Right. And then, of course, we've got the devil after that, provided I don't do a dumb and pick the bad ending.
Yep. And you don't have to fight a bug version like I did.
Yeah. I am so very grateful for that.
Yeah, he's a 3-phase fight, and one of his phase 1 moves, he'll come around from one of the far sides of the screen. Normally he's a background boss that attacks from the background.
Yep.
And he has spots that you can hit in that phase. But he will snake his head in a cartoony way across the screen and start coming on your x-axis and come out of the background into the foreground. And he'll slowly snake towards you while monsters are being summoned.
Right.
But even if you make it all the way across the screen and duck, holding down into the corner, he will still hit you when it was bugged. There was literally no way to avoid getting hit. Sometimes you would be fine, because that's how you're supposed to dodge it, and sometimes you would just take the damage anyway.
Right.
I forget what people found out the trigger for that was, but it didn't matter because it was completely unavoidable.
Right.
I think it's like, if a minion happens to spawn on that side of the screen while he's doing that attack, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to take that hit. So yeah.
Yeah.
You thankfully will not spend hours resetting phase 1 like I did every time you take a hit due to an attack you didn't get hit by.
That sounds incredibly unpleasant, so yeah, I'd rather avoid that. What else did I do this week? Not a whole lot. Oh, right. New game that came out that I've been looking forward to for a little while called Mother Gunship.
I looked briefly at some of the screenshots on the Steam page, and it looked pretty cool.
Yeah. It's, in short, it's a first-person bullet hell type game. A ways back, the same company made Tower of Guns, which is the same kind of concept, where it's a first-person kind of strafey, fast-moving shooter, and there are bullets everywhere. Generally, they're big and slow though, so you can step around them. Mother Gunship is kind of the next step on that, where they kind of get rid of the nonsense excuse plots, very literally excuse plots, by the way. In favour of an actual storyline. I have no idea what I'm actually doing on this screen anymore. Sorry, I'm losing track of thoughts now because this game is doing whatever it really feels like. There we go. They've
professional food.
I know, right? Multitasking, 'tis hard. So yeah, it's got a proper storyline, and they added in a system of constructing your own guns using, various types of block.
Increasingly absurd guns.
Yeah, and you can dual wield these things. So what you start with is essentially a single point, and you hook onto that as some sort of connector piece, and then to that you can connect on barrels and caps. And each of those does something different. Like the barrel would usually determines the kind of shot and the power of the shot, whereas a cap will add various effects to it, like homing or gravity or, whatever. It is possible to build guns that will one-shot just about anything. But, as a trade-off, you will get to fire those guns once. And then you'll have to wait for it to recharge again. It's also possible to build a gun that fills up your entire frame of vision. Don't do that. That is bad.
I don't know, that sounds pretty cool to me.
I think the orcs have this right. This is a game that's all about the DACA. So it is good fun. The levels tend to be kind of short and to the point. Usually about maybe 10 rooms at this point that I've found, and occasionally a boss at the end. And at the end, you're rewarded with, currency which you can use to buy more gun parts, or occasionally just get outright given gun parts. The story is nonsensical. Apparently you've been rescued by this really incompetent army colonel and are sent in to destroy the aliens who, from what I can tell, all they want to do is just archive Earth's data. They don't know why either. The aliens don't know why. They just do what they do because.
So the same plot as Fate Extella then,
Yeah, pretty much.
but with less umu.
Less Umu. And less, so far, less terrible pop concerts. Ugh. So yeah, it's a good, fun game. You can pick it up, you can play it for 15 minutes and accomplish something, then put it down again.
I was genuinely surprised at how cool it just looks.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm used to these sort of like narrow concept games just looking like complete trash and only being playable by people who think that pixel art is cool.
You gotta capture that Nintendo 64 essence of visuals, because that's the way of the future. So, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that one. It's just very light, very silly. And the game kind of progresses at a good challenge rate too. There is a catch though. If you die in a level, you lose whatever gun parts you brought into that level, as well as whatever you picked up in the process. So,
In my opinion, the catch is actually that it's a little bit on the pricey side.
it is a little bit. I think it's probably costs a little bit more than it really should. But if you want to just try it out, I suggest go play Tower of Guns. It's the same basic concept, although that game is kind of on the ugly side. It looks like they're kind of going for this industrial / Borderlands chic. So it's all kind of slightly cartoony.
I see.
Let me think. A couple of hints I've picked up is when you finish a room, just stop and look around. You'll occasionally see blue shimmery patches on the walls. Go and stick your face on those. Those are secrets. There is treasure behind them.
I don't know. Sticking my face on blue shimmery things, in a lot of games, that's generally a poor idea.
Blue shimmery is usually fine. It's red shimmery you got to watch out for.
What if it's like electric?
Then yeah, blue shimmery is bad. In this case, blue shimmery is good. Blue shimmery means treasure, and treasure is always good. That's probably about it for my week. I am actually glad to see My Hero Academia is, for the most part, still carrying on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we moved into the next arc now, the licensing one.
Yep. Which is nice, because I was expecting it to stop at the end of that arc. And we've got the new anime season is kind of hit the episode 3 mark, so yeah, I still haven't seen anything I'm particularly keen on watching. I will watch Cells at Work at one point.
Time to get caught up.
Yeah, I'll watch Cells at Work at some point, because it looks dumb and fun and kind of weird.
It's just very, very cute.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's just adorable.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to spend most of this season going back and playing catch up. Might start with Land of the Lustrous.
I'm thinking that's a likely outcome for me as well. I'm quite busy in this. Man, there's just a real shortage of good stuff this season.
Yeah,
that's been my impression. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is not bad, but it's just not going to make most people's 3rd episode cut. And
yeah.
On the other end of the ledger, I would say that there is nothing for me to slot into my absolute stinker slot this season either. Like, there's nothing which is just like wall-bangingly bad. Like, most of the bad is just like, oh, a clone isekai.
Yeah,
I guess that's bad. Like, I mean, that is bad, but it's not truly magnificently bad.
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, okay, here's a good case of the open beta problem, by the way, or the closed beta. Mouse walking doesn't work. I click on the floor, my character goes and sticks his face in a toxic waste barrel. Right.
I see.
Do you think this would be one of the basic things that would be ensured the game, actually works on properly? But no, it's toxic
Games
waste.
that work for the week.
I wonder if I can change back to the other control scheme. No, I can't because I'm still in the tutorial. Right. So really, I guess that's my week is... Well, yeah, those couple of games, a really good game. Also play some more Dynasty Warriors 8 because that game will never be old and never get bad. Even if Ambition Mode does get a little bit repetitive. But, yeah, I'm going to keep dealing with whatever's going on here now, I guess. Vol, your week, sir.
My week doesn't really contain anything. It was absolutely nuts at work all week, so I didn't have time to do very much of anything, much less play video games and watch anime. So mostly my gaming was limited to like the farming some bones in FGO. Like that was pretty much all I had time for.
Dem bones.
The gacha betrayed me again. It didn't betray Fern. Fern pulled the best rider in the game.
I did.
Obviously.
And
on a 0.002% chance.
He's also the rider that I probably absolutely need at this point.
Yeah, he's like just a raw power character, basically.
Ozymandias, so good.
I, on the other hand, pulled Gawain. A 4-star saber, something I don't have any of, except that
it's Gawain.
Gawain is unique among sabers and being the second worst saber in the game, arguably. Like, he's just really atrociously bad. Like, worse than Fergus.
Yeah.
It's just... of all of the 4 stars that it could give me, Gawain was the one that I specifically thought, oh, I hope I get something other than Gawain before I pulled it.
And you got so exactly what you did not want.
I got Gawain, yeah.
Yeah.
He has basically 0 things in his favour, even when conditions which are very rarely working in his favour are perfectly aligned for him.
It's sunny.
Yeah, because he's only any good when it's sunny. My goodness, stupid limitation. Because he's the praise the sun guy.
Yeah.
Like, even under ideal circumstances, he just basically doesn't have anything going for him. Like, Fergus does the same job, except he's almost always going to be Noble Phantasm level 5.
Yep, because you'll just get Fergus as you play.
Yeah,
if you hit the friend gacha.
And Fergus's Noble Phantasm is just better, generally speaking. The only minuscule thing that Gawain has going for him is that he has good stats. Like,
yeah.
His raw stat line is pretty decent.
Yeah.
But that's not really enough to rescue him. So, yeah, I've gotten an absolute stinker of a pull.
Yeah.
Absolute stinker of a pull. The most disappointing pull on that banner.
And this is after we got mana gauge.
Yeah, like, I probably would have been happier with a mana gauge. At least in mana gauge I can use to help assemble a XP bomb for craft essences. But I can't do anything with Gawain other than use him as a sink for all of my unwanted saber EXP, because I don't have any sabers that are worth a damn. Yeah, so deeply disappointing. So mostly, yeah, farming bones. Today, the summer event was announced. It's going to be starting this week, which will, hopefully it will run for a while so that I'd actually have time to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That way I'm going to get another 4-star. Scathach Assassin is not reputed to be an especially great welfare 4-star, but she's also not reputed to be deeply atrocious. So while I'm not desperately in need of another 4-star assassin, since Shiki basically has the 4-star assassin business on lock, it still would be nice to have another power hitter, because what you really get from 4 and 5 stars is stats. The ability to not die in one hit, the ability to actually hit things hard, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the limitation there. Everybody keeps saying that you can complete everything with 3-star and lower.
Yeah, but they probably haven't had to do it.
Well, number one, the people that say that haven't had to do it. Number two, they are right in the strictest sense. However, what comes before that is quite horrible because it is incredibly slow and difficult farming to get low-level servant skills to the level where they can accomplish that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people write all that stuff off as just farming because the people that actually clear the tough content with low-level servants are doing it for fun to see if they can. They aren't farming that way because if you farm that way, the game becomes much slower and much harder.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm getting really sick of hearing that, to be quite honest. I suppose they think it is like them comforting people who suck at pulling things on the gacha like me, but it actually just makes things worse. It's like when a person is upset and you tell them to calm down, you might as well just punch them in the nuts.
Yeah, because it's about the same effect.
That's the exact worst thing to say because it will make them angrier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if people don't know that or are just stupid or they actually want to make an angry person angrier because telling somebody to calm down is always the wrong answer. But in the case of the gacha, telling a person who can't pull anything good on the gacha that they don't need to pull anything good on the gacha is the same as telling them they don't deserve to pull anything good on the gacha.
Yeah.
So just don't, right? Don't try and comfort people. Just smile and nod, listen to them whinge for a while, and then make an excuse to leave and do something else. Like, that's how you're supposed to respond. Because when somebody's complaining to somebody else about their poor luck, they don't want to hear advice. They just want somebody to listen to them whine for a little bit and then go and do something else because they need to vent.
The correct response is, I don't know, man, or I see when that happens. Ball does it to me every other night.
Well, yeah, because that's just how often I am bad at pulling on the gacha. Like, I've got pulling badly down to a fine art at this point.
Yeah. Is it just
like,
because you care, maybe?
Cards that are terrible.
That might be it. It's you care.
The world is full of people who care and also get awesome pulls. So
yeah, that's true.
I talked to some people on the Discord, in the Discord FGO channel, and they are basically agog. Nobody's got luck like mine.
Nope.
Like, I'm so far below the mean that it is truly spectacular. And if you and that's even counting the fact that I just pulled another gold card. Like, that's not taking into account the fact that the gold card I pulled is deeply awful and worse than a silver.
It's just bad, yeah.
Yeah, like, if you take that into account, then I fall even further below the mean. Like, my pulling is just so, like, stupendously bad that it defies all rational explanation at this point. And I am not the worst. There are people who have it worse than me. I've seen accounts of it online. People who have, like, spent a pile of money and just pulled and managed to get virtually nothing for, like, 400 pulls.
Wow.
They can't get a damn thing. It's just not cooperating with them. They get, Mapo Tofu, and Black Keys, and Mana Gauges, and Love Potions.
Mapo Tofu.
Yorokobe Shonen. Like, it's just, yeah. Anyway, that's depressing. It's deeply depressing, and I don't want to think about it anymore. And welfare servants forever, because they will never betray me.
Yeah.
I get them regardless. If I can, find the time to actually grind them up. But I've had fairly good luck with that so far. Next welfare servant is Scathak, following that is Chloe. Chloe is extremely good as far as welfares go, and will slot perfectly into a team with Tomomo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to Prisma Causeway for another reason now that I've got Tomomo, because Chloe will work very well.
Yep. We've got the summer event, and I believe it's Assassin Scathak out of that.
Yeah. And she's, as I mentioned, a little bit mediocre, but she's got power, and I need power. Like, as I've said before, my major problem is, unless I've got a waiver to borrow, and finally I've got a waiver to borrow, like, a lot of the time I just can't have my servants live long enough, and it ends up being sort of a meat grinder where servant after servant dies, and I have to hope that I can outlast them.
Yeah.
Assassin Scathach is a pretty decent sort of star gen assassin from what I can tell. Not great, not terrible. There's a lot I don't know about her because I'm really bad with quick servants. I can't really tell what makes a good quick servant a lot of the time. But yeah, having another servant that can actually, hit worth a damn has an attack which actually scales up to relatively high, like more than 8,000. Yeah. But yeah. What else did I do this week? There's not really a huge amount, but I did try and watch some anime. I wasn't terribly successful at finding the time to do so, but I did watch a couple of things here and there. I watched the end of the new season of Full Metal Panic. Which was awesome right up until the end. And the end was not bad. The problem was that the end made it 150% clear that what we had reached the end of was the prologue to another story.
Why?
So, yeah, the season ended. There's been no new season announced that I know of. And everything is in tension right now. Like, basically, things come to a head, to a climax. There's a big fight. Everything's starting to go south. We've got like people betraying other people and so on and so forth. And then, the hero gets this new robot and he starts to kick butt and it's not quite enough and so on. And basically the entire season serves to facilitate Chidori's Kevin's feel moment, basically, where the whole point of the early part, particularly of the story, is like, she and Sosuke have basically come to terms with the fact that they're in love with each other by the end of the previous seasons, and she is also trying to come to terms with the fact that she's fallen in love with a guy who's a career soldier and has killed and will continue to kill hundreds of people.
Right.
And she's just aside from the fact that she's got the whispered talent, which is something which isn't really under her control and only manifests once in a while, like, she's basically a normal high schooler and is having difficulty dealing with the fact that her status as a whispered and her boyfriend's status as basically a child soldier results in anybody around her is in mortal danger. And she has to see people die all the time, people get caught up in the crossfire, that sort of thing. And that's basically, she has a bit of a blue screen of death moment over that. And basically, she's sort of like, she's kidnapped, but also sort of running away throughout the series. And at the end of the series is basically she has her Heaven's Feel moment, spoilers for something that was obviously going to happen, where she decides, you know what, I'm sick to death of this. I don't care how many people you have to kill, come and rescue me.
Right.
So but that's where the series ends. That's the thing. Like, it restores the status quo sans the fact that there is one major character which is turned traitor and another major character who is kidnapped. Other than that, everything is just back to the way it was at the start of the story. And so you feel like you haven't gotten anywhere because it was just a prologue. So yeah, it was great series. It was very nostalgic, and that they even end the final episode with the opening song from the very first series. But it just annoys me that the series wasn't like 3 times longer so that I could actually see how it played out. I don't know, maybe they wanted to keep it short so that they could determine if there's actually interest in Full Metal Panic anymore.
Maybe, yeah.
There's been a lot of water under the bridge since it first came out. And I think that the old series was great and it still holds up well, both on technical merits and on writing. Although, the writing is very transparent. Like, you can tell when a character is marked for death a lot of the time. It tends to give characters that are marked for death more development than most series that mark characters for death. But you can tell that somebody isn't going to live because it would cause inconvenient things to happen later. Mm-hmm. But Yeah, generally speaking, I enjoyed the entire series, but I honestly could not say that a person who didn't have a sort of a storied fondness for the franchise would like it. Like, I don't know. It was probably pretty inaccessible to them. I think it's basically fan service to long-time fans. What else? I watched the first episode of Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs, and this is a straight out of the early 2000s harem show.
Yeah, I can see that one coming.
It's the same story as Love Hina, except the cute girl is a ghost. Yeah. There's basically nothing that's really even worth saying about it because it's so similar to a gajillion other shows that have come before. Like, back in the early 2000s, this was what we had instead of isekai shows.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a gajillion of these things, one after the other.
Yep.
And then after that, it moved on to copies of Air and Canon. And then after that, moved on to other genres. And currently, we're in the isekai phase, where everything is an isekai show. But this was from back in the day. And it is the same. It is super samey. It's just like any number of other similar things where you've got one male character, he moves into a boarding house populated by women, and there's one sort of clearly central character, but he's clearly going to have sort of like pseudo flings with everybody else, sort of thing. But yeah, like there's a certain amount of inertia to the ghost love interest story when it gets going. Like, one of the biggest tearjerker anime I had ever watched was, it played it really effectively with a ghost love interest. What was that called? Dusk Maiden of Amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
I bawled my eyes out at the end of that. It was really, really well executed. It was melodramatic, but it was well executed. I don't know necessarily about jamming that particular brand of tragedy into a straight-up harem comedy, but we'll have to see what they do with it. Because oftentimes the rules of the world end up getting broken in order to facilitate it, and so the ending is almost always unsatisfactory.
Right.
Like, the rules are usually laid down, and this is typical of Japanese stories where a ghost is the major character, that if the ghost hangs around too long, they'll become something bad, so they really need to move on. And then the story will give them a bajillion reasons to want not to, and then at the end they'll come up with some Deus Ex Machina, which means they don't need to move on. And so it always ends up being, well, I'm glad that they got their happy ending, but it doesn't make sense.
Yep. Whoopty.
So, yeah. I watched another episode each of the volleyball one and the badminton one.
Okay.
So the volleyball one went on a totally predictable arc. It now makes a bit more sense why there are no male characters in sight, and that's because there's sort of like a Yuri streak a mile wide going through the center of this.
Because of course,
it's not the focal point, but you've got lots of scantily clad women together, and they use pretty much exclusively relationship style language to talk about their on-court partners. So yeah, the entire thing is angling fan service out of that rather than the sort of brazen gratuitousness that you might normally expect from beach volleyball. But generally speaking, the story is relatively competently assembled and pretty much the same as every other sports anime. So yeah, I don't really have any special recommendation for that. It's more or less the same as the others. The badminton one, on the other hand, is sort of moving in fits and starts. How do I say? For starters, the animation is spectacular. Like, it's really, really well groomed. Everything, the anatomy is really well done. All the joint articulation, everything about the motions and that is really, really good. From an artistic perspective, in that context, it's extremely good. The character stuff, on the other hand, it feels very unnatural. Like someone who has like clearly got massive issues ended up getting them solved in what feels like 2 episodes, with really nothing actually causing it to happen. It's not very. I don't know. It feels very, very strange and unnatural the way that what looked like it was being set up to be a major arc got abruptly resolved by doing nothing.
Right.
And the new coach that has been brought in to coach the badminton team seems to have like spurts of supernatural insight into the psychology of his players, intermingled with complete failures of sports psychology 101. Like, he's clearly a character who's designed to project being a genius player and coach, but they make him hold the idiot ball in order to prolong certain conflicts in order for the drama to build. So it ends up feeling unnatural.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the overview from 2 episodes worth, but it seems like the character writing is quite clumsy because they ratchet the drama up too far for the actual depth of the problem. And that's sort of like, that's a teenager thing though, right? That they can be a total drama queen about something that doesn't really matter in the long run. But when it's presented to you as dramatic entertainment, it doesn't work because either you'll wince because you remember witnessing it yourself, or you'll cringe because you remember being part of it. One or the other. So yeah, it just doesn't quite mesh properly. What others? Did I watch some others that I haven't talked about yet? I can't remember which ones I talked about last time. Did I talk about the antique shop one?
I do not believe you did.
Homes of Kyoto. Okay, so it's got a relatively sweet and entertaining pilot, which is the only part that I've watched so far, but it doesn't really set up what the show intends to do.
Right.
But basically, it's a sort of a misleading and not misleading title in that the guy who's basically running the antique shop has the by name Holmes, and the main character thinks it must be a reference to Sherlock Holmes, and because he's like ultra attentive to details because he's an expert on antiques, and he can extract a huge amount of information from just small observations. The classic Sherlock Holmes thing, right? But it turns out that that's not actually the reason why he's called that. It's just a gimmicky reading of the characters of his name.
Oh,
so,
right.
But yeah, she thinks that it should be like that, and that's sort of vaguely implied by what happens, that they are later on going to get involved in sort of investigating Sherlock Holmesian type things, despite the fact that they're an antique dealer and appraiser and his high school girl assistant who basically does the cleaning.
Right.
But yeah, it's not exactly going to grab you. We'll just say that. But there's also nothing wrong with it. It's one of those that, well, this was a perfectly sweet and serviceable pilot episode. I don't know where it's going. It didn't really have much of a hook. But it doesn't offend me either. There's not really much there. It's not really any there. It's there.
just there.
Yeah. I don't have any complaints about it. I'll probably watch another episode at least. It's a pilot that deserves its 3 episodes. Sometimes there's a pilot that doesn't deserve 3 episodes. This is a pilot that does deserve 3 episodes.
Right.
Like, Handshakers didn't deserve 3 episodes.
Yeah, but you watched the whole thing anyway.
I gave it all of them. Well, because it won the slot. It won the "this is so bad I have to watch it" slot.
At least there's some competition for it this year.
In terms of pruning, it didn't deserve to get the 2nd episode, much less make the 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Phantom in the Twilight. Did I talk about that one? It's about the cafe full of bushies.
No, I don't think you did.
There's a cafe full of bushies, and that's pretty much all you need to know.
It just says it all there.
So basically, there's this girl who has basically got romantic notions about going to visit London because she's from China. Her grandmother, great grandmother, ancestor, her ancestor, basically made a name for herself as a sort of a famous career woman in an era before there were career women, basically, by swanning off to the UK and setting up shop in London, doing something or other, which isn't really made clear. But so she's always had sort of romantic notions about rushing off to London and following in her grandmother's footsteps. And her best friend manages to convince her that she should, chase after her dream, and they should both go and study abroad in London. And they end up doing that. And basically, she ends up finding her way to this cafe populated by Bishies, who it turns out that the cafe was originally the business set up by her grandmother. But it seems like the people at the cafe seem to know her grandmother personally, but she's long dead, and they're all Bishies. Because obviously at least one of them is a vampire, and at least one of them is a werewolf.
Of course.
She doesn't know that, though. Basically, basically, it seems like the vector for the story is that she's got a certain amount of her grandmother's talent, but she doesn't know anything about the supernatural world, doesn't know what her grandmother's real job was, whatever that might have been, some kind of magician, it sounds like.
Doesn't know about overplayed cliches.
Yeah, everything about this is an overplayed cliche.
Yeah.
But this is a vehicle for Bishies, ultimately. It's a vehicle for Bishies. Yeah, so the first adventure sort of like ends up, she discovers that she's got some power, and then the vampire dude erases her memory at the end of it because he reckons that her grandmother wouldn't have wanted her to get pulled into their world where they're constantly fighting monsters and stuff. So, and then her best friend gets kidnapped or something, and she's obviously going to rush off and try and get their help, despite the fact she doesn't remember them because she's magic. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that because this is like super pain by numbers, really is.
Yeah, it sounds rather confusing as well.
Yeah, I don't really think that there's anything worth describing about it. It's just like an inoffensive show, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
There's not really much else for me to say on that count. Like, telling you this, it's one of those shows where you tell somebody the synopsis and that's basically all that they need. Like, because there's nothing beyond the sort of flat synopsis. There's no special depth to it or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's anything much else. I dared to watch another episode of The Master of Ragnarok and Blessed of Iron Harrier, and I sort of regret it because it managed to get even more cringy and salacious.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Just leave that one well alone. Seriously, guys. I mean, maybe you like sort of cringy, salacious faux incest, but I mean...
Cringy and salacious I can put up with, but the faux incest? No.
Yeah. Let's not. Like, they've actually created a world where part of the setting is that you use familial titles with people.
Oh dear.
Just to facilitate the faux incest, as far as I can tell. Like, that seems to be the point.
Just to add that extra layer of creepiness.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, we need to break some more taboos here. Our taboo breaking tally is not high enough. What can we do? Like, this is just no.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much else to talk about other than today I discovered that recent patches for the Radeon graphics card drivers have completely broken rendering on the Neptunia games.
Oh joy!
Like, basically all of the textures are just sort of crazy psychedelic colors. There are workarounds for it, but I haven't managed to find one that works yet. But everybody says that they found one that worked. replacing some file or other file or rolling back drivers or whatever. Yeah, it's rough, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sounds like it's a bit of a mixed bag, that.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
All right. We should probably either take a break or just dive straight into Ari's week.
We should take a break because I've got not quite a few things, but a couple things to talk about. So we will be right back after some music.
Okay.
we're back.
Oh boy, yes we are. So
I did not talk
yeah.
about during Balls Week. Nothing really lined up with the stuff I do. So, is he still here? Did he say he had to go AFK for a second? Okay.
Still here.
I'm here.
Okay. I thought I heard something, but that's okay. So do you have more of your week?
Nope.
Okie doke.
Right.
So, I think we're just gonna stick to talking about 2 video games.
Oh, now what's it doing? I don't know what's going on.
His game's breaking.
Yeah, as you can see, now my screen has a large keyboard. Oh, and it's gone now. Why? What was that in aid of?
I don't know.
I pressed buttons.
Weirdness.
I'm guessing so. So, before I actually hooked up the my controller to see if that controlled a bit better than using the mouse, which didn't properly work. So I had that weird kind of hybrid Xbox and PlayStation UI for a while there. It seems to have corrected itself now. It's entirely on the PlayStation UI and showing PlayStation button prompts. Except the button prompts it shows isn't what you press to actually get that ability to work. And for some reason, main menu is on X. I have no idea why. So,
are the buttons mislabeled when you remap them? Is that what it is?
I don't know. I haven't actually tried to remap them. I'm not sure I should try to remap them.
You're playing a Nexon game and you're not doing manual mapping? There's your problem.
Well, the default mapping, if it actually corresponded to what it says the buttons are, would be fine. Like, it looks good. But that's not the problem.
But it's Nexon. None of their stuff ever works.
Yeah, so I hold L2 to use my basic abilities, and I press square, and it activates the ability on X. See? Like that. If I press circle, it activates the ability on square.
Well, flip those binds for now, I guess.
I guess. But I'm not sure what that's actually going to do to the UI.
It'll be okay. You'll just have to play it by ear. I don't think you're going to seriously play this game for more than a day or 2.
Yeah. Like, I'm seeing what I could enjoy to play in here. Like, there's a bit of humor in it, and the gameplay and the mechanics are alright so far. But aside from it being nauseatingly twee, it's just half finished. And actually, to be fair, it's an actual beta.
Isn't nauseatingly twee sort of the whole point of MapleStory?
Yes, it is. Also, over-designed avatars that would give Gaia Online a run for its money. I think I just showed my age horribly. Ugh.
Yeah. Never went on it, but I knew everyone that was on it.
Well, those avatars, they had this massive avatar system where you could go and you can get costumes and wings and accessories for your little paper doll person, and people would use those avatars everywhere.
Yeah, people had pictures and thing everywhere. It was all over the place back in the AIM age.
Yeah. Final Fantasy characters look restrained in comparison.
Yeah.
This guy has a bucket on his head.
It was basically give a bunch of 13-year-olds a character creator and say, make a Mary Sue.
Yeah, and it either comes out as super edgelord or it's just kind of in there underneath all the feathers.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, my week. Let's see. So, Pokemon continued for its 2.5 week, but I think we'll talk about that one second because Fern has some stuff he might want to chime in with.
Sure.
And I can only really talk about the other one. So, I had been wanting to play another Metroidvania game for a while, and I had never finished Order of Ecclesia, and my game card got lost somewhere in the move. So a bunch of my PS3 games and DS original games just went poof. So this is an original DS game, not a 3DS game.
Okay.
But it's the last proper 2D Metroid made by Iga, the dude who's making Bloodstained. So, yeah. I wanted to play this to get a feel for where he was going. And it turns out that it's not the game to do this with. Because this game was being made right when Konami was starting to become the Konami we know today that hates their employees.
Mm-hmm. And their customers and themselves.
So he got a lot of really, really wonky design quibbles just pushed on him. He was forced to try a whole lot of new things. So the only thing he was going to do different was revamp combat for this game, since you don't play as a Belmont, and he was going to make a squishy, skinny girl character who takes more damage, but by the end of the game, because wizards are quadratic, does way more damage than the Belmonts do. But she's a squishy, skinny girl, so she dies in like 3 hits. So that's the only thing he was originally going to do, and he was going to keep the classic castle format, and that's just the way it was going to go. Well, Konami said, well, you've made the same game the same way so many times. Maybe you should jazz it up a little bit. And maybe you should make levels, because apparently they believed that the castle was all one level, despite, that castle being subdivided into about 12 zones per game and taking a full 30 hours to traverse to 100% completion in most games.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was he took the castle he had, he dropped to the bottom of it off of the map on a whiteboard, and he drew lines on it and said, these are now levels. And that became the first half of the game. And so you wind up going to just weird places, like a random monastery, this random field that is just a straight line that was one of the hallways in the original castle. Like, just weird, odd stuff like this. The entire underwater system that usually runs in Dracula's castle is now just a reef and a bay, and has been made into 2 levels. Like, the first half of this game is really weird. You can clearly tell it's a cropped bottom half of the castle. Like, this was not something any sane designer would do. But he manages to make it work. It does make the beginning of the game very linear, which is out of character for this genre. But he did succeed in changing the way you play the game a lot, because he made a much bigger focus on how you approach combat in this game. Because Shano is a wizard. You don't play as a Belmont. You're not a big, strong man who could take 50 hits and keep eating turkey wall chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're a squishy, skinny girl. So she doesn't even get weapons. She's completely magic.
Right.
Even when she uses a weapon, she's using a glyph that summons a familiar of that weapon to whack things with. So this also means she has the health of a wizard. And this means she is by far the squishiest protagonist in any Castlevania game. Even squishier than the classic Castlevania linear games before Symphony of the Night.
Wow.
Like, she, no joke, even on normal mode, dies in 3 hits at the start of the game.
Right.
So this game it's very odd, because the beginning of the game, until you get about halfway through the castle proper, so about 75% the way through the game, is the hardest Castlevania game, period. Like, it is stupid hard because you are so squish. But you hit a point in the castle where you finally hit the quadratic wizard curve, where you just start scaling out of control and can just blow stuff up in 2 hits. And the only thing that matters is the bosses.
Right.
So yeah, the system you set up is interesting. You can wield 2 glyphs, which are either the spectral weapons, like I said before, that she whacks things with, or special spells. And you can use them in different combinations. There's like 80 of these things you can mix and match. You can carry 1 passive one with you. And you can set up 3 sets of these you can hot switch between while you play. But you can only keep 1 passive up, and it has to be the one set to whatever current set you're using.
Right.
So it makes for interesting combat that's a little more dynamic than get the bigger sword, as it was with Summer Cruise, or whip things harder, as it was for all the Belmonts.
Whip all the things?
But yeah. It's interesting. I like what he was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of sad he only got 1 shot at it, because after this, Konami became Konami and he quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Konami.
Well, no, not poor Konami. Poor their workers.
I didn't say
Yeah.
poor Konami.
Oh, I thought you did say poor Konami. Okay. Yeah, I still have no idea why Konami has kind of turned their back on everyone the way they have.
Because pachinko machines, mate.
Gotta love them pachinko machines.
So yeah,
It's like gacha for grown-up people.
yeah. But yeah, the game is still a good game. It was made in 2010, I think, sometime between 2008 and 2011, and that's when it came out. But yeah, Igarashi still made a good product. It's just he couldn't quite do his full vision for the game, and it shows, especially with the level design. When you get to the castle proper, it's fine, and it feels like a classic Castlevania game, but this entire first half of the game just feels weird and out of place. But thankfully, there's practically no loading time between leaving a zone, going to the map, and going to the next zone. So you can just boop on through it and treat it as one big area.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also did intend to make the game harder, because people were saying that after he came in and did Symphony of the Night and changed Castlevania into the genre-defining series we know it as now from the linear platformers, they can be broken pretty easily by people experienced in the genre. And not through skill, just through diligence. So he has found some creative ways, aside from Squishy Shinoa, to make the game more interesting. And that one of these is hard mode, which is looking more and more appealing the more I read about it. And so to get 100% completion, you have to finish the game on hard mode after you beat it once. They let you keep, if you want, you can opt out of this, although it sounds like suicide. They let you keep all the stuff you got from the main game in hard mode New Game Plus. But to get all the stuff to get 100% completion, you have to hard lock your character at level 1. That leg up?
No, sorry, I just found something in this game which has caused my brain to seize up. I can only describe as a waifu cube.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It's a box. Someone has built their house as a box with pictures of their waifu all over it. I have no idea who this character is.
What?
I don't know, and I don't know why this is actually allowable in the game. This is an abomination. It must be destroyed.
Every time you talk about this game, in inverted quotes, my brain just sort of stalls.
I'm just going to sit here and shoot the waifu box. Carry on. Yeah, okay, the waifu box just destroyed everything, didn't it?
Why are you playing this again?
I have no idea at this point.
Because I really like this genre of game. I think it's fun.
I was talking about Fern.
Yeah.
Oh,
that.
There we go. I had to punch my net.
You need to.
I think it just now reconnected me.
You need to remember that our show has visual gimmicks now.
Yeah.
The visual gimmicks mainly involve Fern doing shameful things.
Incidentally, I just found Morgana sitting on the roof playing a harp. As in Persona 5 Morgana.
I see.
Why are you here? You're in the wrong game and you should be telling a dopey-looking kid to go to bed. What the hell is this? What? What? Okay, this game has just officially broken me.
I don't know.
I'm going to have to post some pictures for you guys to have a look at this nonsense later. But, why?
I did not hear you reacting to your game at all. I think my internet hiccuped. I muted my mic to boop the adapter. I think I couldn't hear anything for 7 seconds. And the first thing I heard when I got back was Paul saying, "Why are you playing this game?"
So there's that thunderstorm lag.
Yeah. So normally it boots back in a second, not 7 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah. What was I talking about?
What were you talking about?
Being
hard mode.
Oh,
yeah,
hard mode.
Yeah, so they hard lock you at level 1, which is a big deal in this game because you finish this game around level 70-ish. And each level gives you not a significant number of stats, about 0.5 to 0.7 of a stat point, and they don't count until you get a full one. But every single point is worth a whole lot of damage, like double digits per point. So if things have more HP in hard mode, which they do, and do more damage in hard mode, which they do, and you have no way to naturally scale your character other than items, you need to get really good at dodging attacks and doing 20-minute boss fights.
Right.
Because from what I've read, after the halfway point, you just get one shot. Like, just you can equip the ring that says you die in one hit, but you get a drastic stat boost because you're going to die in one hit anyway. So, I'm actually looking forward to trying that. It looks interesting. It was clearly a mode made for fans and veterans of the genre anyway, which is not something I thought this particular genre of game would ever cater to, ever. But yeah, it's just not something they generally care about. They're focused more on making an interesting game than making a difficult one. So I'll see how that goes after I beat the main game. I'm literally saved outside of Dracula's door. So I will have the game beaten. I just beat the bonus boss, who took me, like, during the pre-show, the entire conversation y'all had with Grand Order to beat on normal mode. So about 15 to 20 minutes. So, yeah. It is a good game. It holds up still pretty well, although if you're a fan of the genre, before you go run out and buy it, if you haven't played it yet, just know the first half of the game is a little janky, with the level design especially. But it does get better. The castle itself and the castle proper is classic Castlevania stuff, and it's real good. So it's worth the slog. It is also one of the shorter games. It probably caps out, if you're not going for 100% completion, at about 15 hours. So you're going to finish it pretty quick. That's if you can find a copy. This thing is apparently like a $40 cartridge, no matter where you get it.
Yee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's steep.
So how did you get it?
I saw one on sale that was used on Amazon from some retailer for like $29.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. And got it in the mail. So yeah, it's interesting. I've currently got Shinoa with Medusa head spinning around her automatically, just killing zombies one at a time to rack my kill count up, because you need to get your kill count up to get 100% completion, because it wouldn't be Castlevania, Metroidvania, if they didn't lock 100% completion behind arbitrary weird crap like that.
Yeah. It's kind of compulsory at this point.
Yeah, kind of a franchise tradition. So, that is that game. I figured I would tell the peoples about it in case they are interested.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that has dominated the last 2.5 weeks was Pika Man.
Yep.
I beat Pika Man Ultra Mun, the main game anyway. I haven't touched the post game yet.
Gotta go fight that Rainbow Rocket.
Yeah, gotta go fight the Rainbow Rocket.
All the bad guys.
It sounds like a euphemism for something.
Yeah, it's like some evil team in the post game that's comprised of all the leaders of all the previous games' evil teams. Yeah. Apparently Giovanni had an unchange of heart.
he got unbeaten up. I don't know.
Oh dear, that was horrible lag.
Yeah, it was.
He got, and then...
So, yeah, you get to... you fight all of the bad guys from previous Pokemon games, and you get to see just how bad they are in comparison to each other.
So is there anybody who's just, like, comically a Snidely Whiplash excuse for a villain?
Aside from all of them.
Well, there's Guzma, current gen dude. Well,
yeah. I always thought that Giovanni was actually sort of menacing. Like, he clearly was incompetent at leading a team, since, broadly speaking, Team Rocket couldn't find their backside with both hands, a map, a flashlight, and a GPS. But
yep,
he was a menacing individual. I mean, his name screams mafia, come on.
Yeah, as does his very, very snappy attire.
And his pet.
And his pet.
Pet Persian.
His pet Persian.
The dude is a gangster Bond villain.
You've got things like probably the most imposing villain would be Gestus, or whatever you pronounce it, because he just outright abused a child, like horribly.
He's just a complete psychopathic sociopath. He abuses everybody he meets and just wants to kill everybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he actually died though.
He's back now.
He's back. He's apparently stopped being dead.
He got better.
Yeah. This being a Pokemon game, he did the old classic Disney villain death where he kind of died off screen, but yeah, it was implied that he was dead from memory.
Yeah. Get was Gen 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't remember Geddes being that intimidating as a person, though. Like, he's definitely the most legitimately evil team leader.
Yep.
But he kind of just said, hey, green-haired kid in the cap, do everything for me.
Yeah, I'm going to just break you and emotionally manipulate you into doing what I want you to.
Yeah.
He also, Gestus also dressed incredibly silly. But then you've got things like the admins for Team Aqua and Team Magma, who are just idiots.
I don't understand anything about Gen 3. I don't understand what the villains' motivations even are.
They
that
want
generation of evil
to be
teams.
villainous, doy.
They want to make more habitat for Pokemon, ignoring the fact that Team Aqua's plan involves setting the world to just rain constantly. Ignoring the fact that the amount of water on Earth is constant.
It's like, remember Zangarmarsh?
Yeah, it was dumb.
They basically want to turn the world into Zangarmarsh, and the other group basically wants to turn the entire world into Old Tanaris before it flooded.
Yeah, so they want to create get the volcano to erupt and create more land. And, of course, humanity can just go and screw itself.
This is like a villain plot on the level of, like, the cheat commandos.
Yeah. Except to the point where...
Laser wanted to blow up the ocean!
Yeah. Problem is both Team Aqua and Team Magma awaken their primal, and... yeah... Then they realised it was a bad idea.
That happens every time you wake up some ancient thing. Like, why do people do it? It's like how they in Egypt they said, "Oh no, we're totally going to open this giant black granite sarcophagus to find out what's inside."
Yeah, that's no way that's going to end well.
Yeah, just leave old things that are not bothering you alone. If you wake them up, they tend to bite back.
Yeah.
Very good morning, people.
I saw a guy posting this thing about how the sarcophagus is not going to have like a curse or mummies or whatever in it because it would need to be at least 1,000 years older than that because this is from the Ptolemaic dynasty. Blah 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 blah. And the guy and another guy replied to him and said, you know, if I was a guy who worshipped whatever was in that sarcophagus, that's what I would say too.
Yeah. So
By the way, for those listening, I'm not talking about a game. I'm talking about real life.
Yeah.
Generation 3 just isn't cool.
No.
I don't like Gen 3. I never finished it for a reason.
The villains were terrible. The 80% of the map was water. Just why?
At least this game they did what they should have done in Gen 3 in the current gen with, you know, the crazy eco-terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made the Aether Foundation, which are people trying to do legitimate good, but they're causing major problems, so you need to punch them in the face.
Yes.
Which gen is this? What game is
7.
associated with that? Well, don't give me a number. Tell me. Okay, Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon, yeah.
Like, when people say a gen and a number, I have no idea what they're talking about ever.
But yeah, we're in the 7th generation, and we're at Sun and Moon. So
this is spoilers because I haven't finished the game, but I don't care. What was Ganondorf trying to do?
Fancy Ganondorf?
Yeah.
What was he trying to do? I think he was trying to round up everyone's Pokemon and free them all into the wild.
But what if the Pokemon don't want to go into the wild?
Well, that was generally the counter argument because, well, these Pokemon don't want to go to the wild. They're quite happy where they are.
Yeah. Who's Ganondorf?
Generate X and Y's bad guy.
Oh, Team Flare dude.
Team Flare, yes.
Yeah, no, he's just a closet psychopath.
Yeah. Oh no, I've lost. I'm going to come back with robot arms. No explanation, he just does.
Even Ganondorf never came back with robot arms.
No,
Did
he came back as a giant pig.
I was under the impression that he was always a giant pig.
This is also true.
That's what happens when a Gerudo gains enough magic. They turn into a giant pig.
Because reasons.
Yeah, that's like his dark form or whatever.
Except for Wind Waker, he was dead in that, and he just hung around as a ghost or something.
Isn't Wind Waker like the main continuity or something?
Who even knows anymore?
No, hold on. Wind Waker is what happens. Wind Waker is the one that happens when, in Ocarina of Time, you don't bother to go back in time and beat Ganondorf or something. I don't even remember. I'm really confused by the whole affair, to be totally blunt.
Yeah, do not try and make sense of Zelda's timeline. That way leads to headaches.
Yeah, Nintendo, you need to get somebody who's better at continuity to do the job.
Yeah.
I don't think that they've ever bothered to think about it until, they tried to produce that supplementary materials book.
That is something they just shouldn't have done it.
Their timelines are wonkier than the Fate universe. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, nonsensical Pokemon villains aside, what else did you have about the game?
Implying that there's another kind.
Well, yeah.
The Vigi game. So overall, my experience. Oh, there we go. Hang on. There it goes. My internet had a hiccup there. So the Vigi game. So my experience was surprisingly good with it. I expected just a clean, easy Pikaman game the whole way through, but they really weren't kidding when they said they cranked the difficulty up quite a bit.
Yeah.
I never died, but there were some fights where I lost a Pokemon or two.
Yeah.
Like 3.
I'll admit I have
for a
died
Pokemon game, that's a big deal.
Yeah. I've died a few times in those games, but that's usually because I'm just derping around not paying attention.
Trying to kill everything with fairy type only or something like that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, never do monotype teams, kids. But
unless Steel.
But every gym leader does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Drop does it, it can't possibly be a bad idea.
Oh dear. But yeah, where was I going with that? And this is with the EXP share on, by the way. So all of my team was getting experience and leveling up evenly. I didn't do any switch training. I fought every single trainer I saw, and I tried to thoroughly explore every area. So I found everything and fought everybody. And I got to the Elite Four and had to revive 4 Pokemon.
Yeah.
They were not messing around. They were still monotype, but they had coverage moves out the butt.
Yep, they're ready for you, and they're a bit smarter about using them too.
Yeah, the AI has gotten much better. It is actually trying to kill you now. So, they know how to switch Pikaman. This is dangerous. So, yeah, they will now switch Pikaman if they have an unfavorable type matchup and they're not like a youngster or something. If they're one of the higher trainer classes, they'll switch it out.
Yep.
They're not going to let you keep Hydro Pumping their ground type.
Not unless they got nothing else.
Yeah, unless they got... You can euphemize anything.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
But,
dear.
But yeah, that is one of the bigger, more significant changes, is the AI is much smarter about switching. And it's something I think they will retract, because people are complaining about the difficulty. Why? Just losing their heads over it. I don't know. Pokemon games before had 0 challenge. Now they have nominal challenge.
They have some challenge, yes.
Well, I think that I think that Pokemon, amongst other things, like, I mean, Pokemon is a pretty broad-ranging franchise with broad appeal to lots of different types of gamers. But I think that amongst those types of gamers are also the people who, like, all of the bad implications of the word casual apply.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't want to have to do anything.
Yeah. These are the kind of people who think what I'm doing with Shinoa on Order of Ecclesia right now, where the game is literally sitting there playing itself, isn't interactive and engaging gameplay that they seek out.
Yeah.
Pokemon doesn't take any thought if you want to win any generation other than Ultra Sun and Moon. Like, you literally can just take your starter Pokemon and only use them, and you'll win the game.
Yes.
This has happened and worked in every single generation.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gen, especially telling in Gen 2, because those starters were terrible around the board.
Yeah, they were. Especially Meganium. Meganium's a support Pokemon. It does not... it should not be in there as a starter.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from switching, I've noticed the AI is much, much smarter about how it uses the Pokemon Pass in Gen 3.
Yep.
So for all the Gen 1ers who haven't played past there, abilities are a passive that every single Pokemon has now that's dependent on its species. So like a Gengar has Levitate, so ground moves can't affect it because the Gengar is one of its passives, and there's usually 2 to 3 per species, but only the really special ones get 3.
Yeah. Well, actually, these days most Pokemon now have a hidden ability as well as their standard, but I'm not sure what the ratio is to those that have 2 abilities rather than 3.
I was just thinking it was the majority because I always see normal and hidden, and then there's sometimes an exclusive Dream World ability on them as well, if they came from there or if they're a special legendary or something.
Yeah.
Or a unique Pikaman.
Yeah.
That's what I see on Bulbapedia whenever I go Bulba a Pokemon.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've gotten a lot better at using these, and these moves can be really devastating. Like, knowing to call in the Pokemon that summons the Sandstorm before you start using Rock-type or Ground-type moves is something the AI didn't used to do.
Nope.
The team... And so they're real good about using these. They'll switch in the Pokemon that has static. So if you touch it with a physical move, there's like a 20% chance you'll get paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll throw that out against your physical attacker. Like the AI is very consistent about knowing its passives and knowing how to use them. And I thought that was really good. The other thing, which is the only thing I would be okay with them tuning down, because a lot of these Pokemon have really weird moves, is they've given every single Pokemon in this game some kind of coverage move, and the Elite Four have just really wonky out there ones.
Yes, they do.
Like, these things can hit a weakness on just about anything.
They actually have balanced competitive teams.
Yeah, they may all be mono-type, but they can use every type.
Yup.
Yeah. The hardest one for me was the Steel Trainer.
Oh yeah, Steel's always going to be tough.
Yeah, because Steel is a quite good defensive type.
Unbelievable, yes.
And when it one-shot my Fire Pikaman, I was in a bit of trouble. I had to sacrifice somebody else. Like, I think it was my bug fighting dude, because it was the only one that was hitting things for any real damage with fighting moves. To punch my way through it. But yeah. But yeah, overall, I think the changes are good. And I was going to go off on a tangent about one new mechanic they added for catching the new species of pseudo-legendaries, the Ultra Beasts they added, where you have to ride on the box legendary through a wormhole and play a minigame to get to the right wormhole where that particular one you're hunting is located.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have two axes in a semicircular arrangement and a half circle that you can move this thing around as it auto-flies Star Fox style through a wormhole. You have to collect rings to keep your speed up so you don't get pulled into wormholes you don't want to go into, and you have to avoid little electro balls that'll take your speed away. when you first experience this minigame, you are forced to use the motion controls on the DS for it.
Ugh.
Now, thankfully, you don't have to go very far. You only got to ride for about 40 seconds or so in there. And that's not too bad, although you're going to be spinning around in your chair, and I hope you have an office chair for this because you're going to need it. Trying to get this thing to line up right. Now, they do not tell you at all after you do the little event there and you go back to your world that there is any way to change this control scheme. They don't hint at it. They don't put an option for it. There's just nothing. So, just out of curiosity, I went looking up to see if other people were mad about this. And it turns out there is a way to change the control scheme, but it's the most obtuse thing you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, that's
there's a hidden like Game Freak office somewhere on one of the islands in a random building that has otherwise nothing in it. And they've had one of these in every generation where you go there when you complete the Pokedex and they give you a little certificate you can print out. That's really all they've been there for. Well, this time, there's this random dude in a funky helmet that if you talk to him, he'll talk to you about the minigame randomly. And he'll be like, what do you prefer? Joypad controls or motion controls? And you can switch it so you can use the joypad.
Right.
Which makes it much easier.
Yeah. I don't know why Nintendo insists on using the motion controls in the 3DS. It's never been particularly good.
Well, they've always wanted to really, really push their latest gimmick, whatever it might be. Like,
yeah,
we've got the same scenario as basically, the Nintendo Wii. And they pushed that and were successful, and then they came out with the Wii U and they pushed that and they weren't.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's been my experience with Pikaman Ultraman. There is apparently a crap ton of post-game stuff in this game.
Oh, yeah. It gets a bit absurd.
Yeah, they've been packing on tons of post-game stuff you can do in these games, and it's starting to hit ludicrous levels. I saw like a list of like 30 things you can do post-game. Some of them full mini campaigns.
Yep.
Like, good gravy, there's still stuff to do. But yeah, it's a good video game. I was surprised. I think the changes are good and appropriate, and I wish they would stay, but I have a sneaking suspicion they ain't.
Yeah. Well, we got next innovation is going to be on the Switch, so who knows what they're going to do for that.
We'll see.
It could be a giant step back. I hope not, because I actually quite enjoy having to stop and think sometimes.
Yeah. Nintendo, please. I know same experience for everybody, yada, yada, yada. Just give us a difficulty option button.
Yeah.
Please, just cave.
Can't do that.
Well, the thing is that they don't really have any incentive to do so, because they make the same amount of money regardless.
Yeah.
It would be a nice gesture. So yeah, that is Castlevania and Pikaman. And those are your two recommendations for the week. And I am not going to be here for a couple weeks. So I'll talk about this now briefly. I mentioned it on past shows before, but I'll say it in the middle of this one so people know for surezies. For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be unceremoniously dragged away from my regular life down to Florida.
To the dreaded beach.
Yeah. So I don't like the beach, for those wondering. At all. But yes, I will not be here. So you'll have the Toad and Marshmallow show for 2 weeks, because I will be leaving on a Saturday and coming back on a Saturday, and I do not think I will be getting back in time.
Yeah.
So yes, we will be getting back very late at night. And knowing my family, they will be late, so we may not be back till Sunday.
Gotta have those high expectations.
Are you going to wear a sheet the entire time?
No, I did the full cover up last year. I remember talking about that. That was not fun. I'll find another way to avoid the sun. That was just... It was better than getting sunburned, but it was still not comfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be back and have hopefully some interesting things to say. I will try to scoop a few video games to take with me and give y'all some more recommendations when I get back.
All right.
So That is that.
That is that. We should move on to some news, because some stuff actually happened this week.
Yeah, we got a few articles in there. I only had 2 in my notes, and you posted both of them already.
Yep. Vol, why don't you pick first today?
Oh, you say that, but
I'm fighting a boss.
So am I.
It's boss fights all around.
The only one. Yeah, I'm fighting. I'm fighting Void Liz as Liz.
Right.
And getting my butt kicked.
You
Right.
know that's going to end up in a singing competition, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, so the World of Warcraft content patch, which bridges the gaps between a current expansion and an upcoming expansion, has been deployed, and Blizzard have managed to set a record by cocking up the launch of their new expansion before their new expansion has even come out, which is quite spectacular.
They've made a mess of it, yeah. So where to begin? All right. First things first, I suppose. The first day, the server was pretty much unreachable.
Yeah, that's not a good start.
Yeah.
Not a good start. I mean, at this point, like, you don't really have any excuses left about things like, we don't know what the server load is going to be like, so we weren't able to cope with the influx of people logging in. Like, all your excuses have evaporated by this point in the game, I'm afraid. If you have a server screw up at this stage, when you've been running your game for 14 years or something stupid like that,
yeah,
there's really nothing left except to say that you can't do your job. You need to find another industry, thanks.
So yeah, there's been some really fun bugs, like players going into old dungeons to farm them for money, getting one-shot by mechanics from grossly outdated bosses.
That's happened before, though, hasn't it? Like, it happened the last time they did a squish.
I believe it did, yes.
The phenomena won't be exactly the same, but
no,
they'll be pretty close.
It's still kind of funny, though.
It seems to be much more rampant than last time. I seem to recall it happening before, but this seems to be the primary thing that at least the people I've heard playing the game are talking about.
Mm-hmm. What
I don't
else?
have examples. I didn't pay attention to them. Wow. But
yeah. What else we got? We've got Kael'thas suddenly turning up bald.
That should have been an in-game event.
I know, right?
Like, that might have been enough to lure me back to WoW, at least for a little bit. There was an event, which is basically entirely about Kael'thas's hair.
Just going missing.
But he wasn't the only one missing something from the top of his head.
No, certain trolls around the world were not only missing their hair, but also their scalp and the top of their head. Yeah, they kind of need that. So having a broken model where you can see into their head just doesn't work.
Well, I mean, Ubisoft seems to be okay with it.
They just took away people's faces. It was creepy as all get out. Ugh. So yeah, they've been making a mess. Like, there's going to be bugs, of course. Like, it's going to happen, but oh boy. You'd think at this point they would have learned to catch the biggest ones.
I mean, they really should just be honest with us at this point. The game's old. There's spaghetti code everywhere. Something's going to cause a load error with the new stuff we stick in when we put it on a live server.
Oh, there's a new one.
We don't know what that is.
Yep. There's a new bug we haven't found before.
Figure it out.
Yeah. There's a guard in Elwyn Forest that will just die continuously on loop.
Doesn't he say something really appropriate?
Arg the pain, will it ever leave me? No, you're there to die constantly on loop.
Like Olga.
Poor Olga. So yeah, Blizzard's launched come out and said, yeah, this is not acceptable, we're sorry, this has all gone horribly, horribly wrong. They have delayed the next phase of the pre-launch event by a week. So we shall see. It's not a good start, though.
No, it really isn't. It's, you would think that would get better by now, but I guess, they do add different and strange complexity to the game every time. And now that they've completely annihilated the PvP server as a concept, and the entire world is now phased into PvP phase and PvE phases and things like that, they've made their job harder for themselves by basically revamping their game.
Yeah.
I'm not passing comment on whether or not it was a good idea. I'm just saying that, I wouldn't, at the rate that they completely rebuild their game, I wouldn't expect an era to come where this doesn't keep happening.
No.
I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing this until WoW is cold and dead in the grave.
Yeah, and then another MMO is going to come along and do exactly the same.
Well, I don't know. We don't know for sure that the genre is that resilient. That it's. Nobody has really managed to accomplish that level of success. It just hasn't happened.
No.
And we aren't going to see a flood of people attempting it until such time as somebody manages to be as successful as WoW again in an environment where everybody wants to bandwagon on.
Yeah.
Like PUBG.
Ugh.
Stop. That was I think the number one most grotesque thing I saw at E3 was the way everybody had suddenly leapt on the idea of doing a battle royale game and all felt like they were being original.
Yeah, instantly. I think MapleStory 2 has a battle royale mode in it.
Obviously,
because of course they do. All right, so that's that. And yeah, it shouldn't be surprising. And it's the usual adage of a new WoW expansion: wait a week before you jump in. And this will go for when it launches.
A new Blizzard game in general.
They have done something rather cool though, which is rearranged how the purchase of prior expansions has worked. Now,
that was just a long overdue thing that they had been doing informally anyway.
Yeah. So they've more or less just officially done it now. Is if you have an active subscription, you now own everything all the way up to Legion.
It should have already been like that.
Yeah.
They still charge top dollar for those expansions. Nobody can afford all of them.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Well, if you can exploit people because you're popular, I guess.
Yeah, but there's a point. Like, people will wise up. So I'm glad they're doing this. And yeah, it's just something that's been a long time coming. Alright, anything else on the WoW topic before we move on?
WoW new expansion time. It's time to avoid people that play WoW so they don't try to drag you back into it. Lock your doors, close your windows, blind the curtains.
Just hide.
Don't talk to anybody that plays WoW. If you manage to get away, stay strong.
Yeah, I am sort of curious though how successful their sort of revitalization attempts were, because the old world had reached a sort of level of profound irrelevance as far as content was concerned.
Yeah,
it was so trivial to kill things, so staggeringly trivial, and they endeavored to ameliorate this to some extent. However, I'm not perfectly convinced that people wanted it ameliorated. Like, yes, the content was bad, but now the content takes time, and the all of the content that's relevant gets further and further away from where you start every time. So I don't know.
It's one of the reasons why they started handing out those free character boosts with the new expansion.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's going to be a fatigue associated with it now. Like, I wonder if we'll see a situation where what kills WoW is simply the size of WoW. That the start to end distance is too long. Because I mean, I don't know. I don't even know, like, how much knowledge do you need in order to get in a timely fashion to the end of the game? Because I mean, we can burn through it no sweat, but if a new player comes in and they have to burn all the way through to the current expansion content. Like, when they can't even navigate the zones the way that we can. Like, how long is it going to take a person, even if it's easy to do the actual leveling?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
It's hard to say. We learned these levels in
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Since then, they've gotten a lot of help with the "where do I go" problem that we had. They have a totally different experience learning these zones than we did.
Well, now it's follow the arrows.
Yeah, you don't actually learn the layout of the zones, but it's, I don't know, the game just seems like it's going to get crushed under the weight of its own bloat one day. I don't know how long it will be until that day comes, but like it seems inevitable that something will kill WoW. But I think that WoW is the most likely candidate for that, whether it's Blizzard's idiotic policies that they decide to leap after sometimes, or, you know, the game itself becoming too dated or too large or too cumbersome or whatever. I don't know. The thing is, it's become this sort of weird icon for the genre as a whole, and it's sort of hard to imagine a world where it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's especially hard for us because it was such a big part of our lives for so dang long.
Yeah, and that's why I have so much trouble with temptation to go back to it, because I spent so long in that world, it still feels like I have unfinished business there.
Yep.
Until the servers go dark, I feel like it's still a place that I should have business with. But it's bad for you, man.
It feels like an old home when I look at it now, but I know there's an abusive drunken dad there named Blizzard who's just going to beat you across the face. And you need to stay away from it. I wish that analogy was not perfectly accurate, but it kind of is.
Wow. Just wow.
Just wow.
And before, you know, we're going to have, like, these sort of weird tropes are going to start bleeding over into each other, and we're going to have things like a Pokemon Isekai game. And...
Yeah.
Well, genre weaving always happens, and then it fails, and then more genres try to weave together later.
I hope we don't end up with Pokemon Isekai, because that would be bad.
Has Pokemon done the journey into cyberspace trope yet?
One of the movies, probably.
Holy crap, I lagged. But we already have a Pokemon Isekai. It's called Mystery Dungeon.
Oh, right, we do too. I forgot about Mystery Dungeon.
I don't play most.
Yeah.
They came out before SAO, so they get a pass.
Yeah.
Well before SAO, in fact. They came out in like 2004.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the shelf in the store, you know, when I went into stores.
Yeah. Who goes to stores anymore?
It's still an ongoing series, too. The GBA games are really good, but in those games, you're a human pulled into the Pokemon world and turned into a Pokemon.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Right.
But yes. Don't do it, kids. It's bad for you.
'Tis a trap.
I'll make a 90s drug PSA about it. It's that bad.
Don't do that.
Does that mean you have to, like...
Nobody deserves that.
Yes!
Yes, it does. Badly. I think that's compulsory for 90s PSAs. Really, really bad rap.
Oh, dear. They were in a good chunk of them. They had really bad editing.
Well, yeah, the bad editing goes without saying.
And really bad over-the-top acting.
Just bad in general. Speaking of something that's bad...
Go watch the John Ron video of it if you're curious and you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff that's bad, here's something that's not. Hollow Knight's getting its final expansion.
Oh, I was going to do this one. Okay. Yep, Hollow Knight's getting its final expansion. This is the final free one. I don't know if they ever said Hornet was going to be free or not. And I don't think she's in this one.
Yep.
So, yeah. They've added a new quest line to the game, and they're joking your romance options expand from 0 to 0.
Yes.
Which won't stop the internet.
No, it will not.
Please don't shit bugs, folks. There are new boss fights, plural. We have not seen them yet. We've seen screenshots of a few of them. I forget what they are off the top of my head. But the last few they've added, the Nightmare King and his super mode are really, really good. And the Hive dude and the Hive to make that area actually mean something instead of feel like abandoned content was nice. And he was a good boss.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking. I'll get to the third thing here in a sec. It's funny. New music. Hollow Knight has decent music. I'm not a huge fan of the OST personally, but it's still pretty good. So that's a thing that's there on the box for this patch.
Yep.
The ability to glorify charms, which are in Hollow Knight your equipment and your modifiers for your abilities. So you can do things like make your sword swing faster, or you can move quicker, or you can have a cloud of acid surround you, stuff like that. You can now glorify at least one, maybe all of your charms by doing a quest or something and collecting a lot of materials and make it a super charm.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're doing this for all the charms, but that's cool. More charm depth is what makes that game interesting, especially for on the first playthrough. That's kind of lost, is exploring what all the charms can do. When you go back to the game, you only can do that once. So whenever they add stuff to get back that feeling of playing with those charms again, I really like it because that's a really good system. And the funny one. So the fan, there's a new game mode coming. They in every single Glory, they just say new game mode. It's getting a third game mode. This one's been long requested and is a classic for the genre. Compatible, complete the Gods and Glory story to unlock the new mode. So
yeah.
Anybody that plays this genre knows that when you beat the game, you get a boss rush mode. Hollow Knight didn't have a boss rush mode.
It needed a boss rush mode.
Yes. People asked for a boss rush mode. The devs said they were working on and wanted to do a boss rush mode. But for some reason, when promoting this free DLC, they're just like, new game mode, and they refuse to say boss rush mode.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah. The marketing person probably told them not to.
Keep that hype up.
I guess. I'm drawing attention to it by extending the discussion about it, so I guess it's working. But I just think it's really funny.
Like, the reality is that when it comes to video games, at this point, everybody knows that speculation is better marketing than the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But
you don't build hype by knowing everything that's about to happen. You build hype by wondering, even if you're like 99.9% sure.
But yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the things when I first talked about Hollow Knight, I hope they'd put in. So I'm actually really excited about that. Boss rush modes are a really fun thing in the genre, especially if they have a mode that scales the bosses up to your level, and you still have to do time attack and try to beat them all as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it also helps you get old boss patterns back in your head. And for Hollow Knight, it's especially helpful if they add boss rush mode, because if you do a Steel Soul run where you only have one life, you can go practice the bosses without having to go through the whole dang game again. Or make a separate save file for every boss.
Yes.
So yeah, that's very nice.
'Tis indeed. Always welcome more Hollow Knight, because that game is great.
Yeah. You will not find more bang for your buck in hours per dollar that has come out in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
For products that actually ask for money.
All right. Next article.
You can pick this one. I hijacked that one from you.
All right. We have the dates of the Monster Hunter World Final Fantasy XIV crossover in America.
In America.
In America. So, on the Final Fantasy end of things anyway, this article doesn't mention the Monster Hunter side. The crossover will happen on August 7th. It includes an armor set, a Poogie and Palico pet, a Rathalos mount, and a barbecue spit you can get.
That is one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, it's a piece of furniture. Yeah. Unless, of course, you sit down and it'll actually play the little tune when you interact with it. That would be perfectly fine. Has that little tune always been the same? It's been roughly the same. It's changed kind of the remix and the instrumentation a bit, but the core tune's always been roughly pretty much the same.
So, okay.
Pickle. Yeah. Pickle.
There we go.
Yeah. So, from what we can tell at this point, the content is basically it's a Rathalos fight, and it comes in the form of a trial. So, an 8-man raid, 8-man for base version. There is also the extreme version, which you play in 4-person mode. Yes.
I always like smaller content formats.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why it seems to just be this fundamentally universal thing that everybody seems to think that larger numbers of people are always better. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I prefer to have more control over the people I play with.
I prefer a smaller, more familiar environment. Yeah. The only catch with this event is in order to access it, you must be level 70 and have completed the Stormblood main story.
Completed. So up to the first milestone, or like up to date.
I'd say
they're very, very different things in Final Fantasy.
It'll be up until the end of the main story, which is usually a boss fight.
That boss, man! Holy cow! What a finale!
That's big giant goddess lady, wasn't it?
What?
That the final boss fight in Stormblood, was it?
No, that's not the final from the main story quest.
Oh, okay.
The final from the main story quest is the dragon.
Oh, right, that's right.
Absolute freaking nightmare of a pug, but I had a great time doing it.
Yeah, don't pug if you can help it, kids.
The problem with that fight is largely the number of people that get frustrated and leave.
Yeah.
Like you don't ever end up with a group that gets better and better and progresses. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
Because in the ideal situation, you'd stick together and you'd practice, and then eventually you would get the boss down, and then you'd all go home happy. But what actually happens in practice is that people will stay for a couple of runs and then leave because it didn't get the boss down, and then you get a couple of fresh people who don't know what they're doing. And basically you just have to keep going along until you luck out and get people who already know what they're doing and have the misfortune to pull it on the roulette.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a
great boss.
Oh, it is. But that's a bit of a hurdle in order to take part in an event.
But everybody should have done it, I guess is the thing. Like, it's really, really difficult and challenging, but it's only really, really difficult and challenging proportional to what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that final boss from the main story quest of the launch version of Stormblood is the right difficulty for the final boss of an MMO.
Yep.
For the story, for the common player.
Yep.
I think it's right.
Yeah. Ultima Weapon I found a bit underwhelming, but by the time we really got around to actually doing it, that was towards the tail end of the main story. Actually, I think Heavenswood was out at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not a good comparison, really.
What happened in Heavenswood? What was at the end of the launch version there?
Couldn't tell you.
The first version of Knights of the Round.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was also quite good.
Mm.
It wasn't. I think that the weakness of that fight is it wasn't very transparent. Like, it was hard to learn because you didn't really understand what was going on without watching footage after the fact.
There's a lot going on in that fight. It's Moggle all over again. All right, so that's
what were we talking about?
So yeah,
the
I'd love to jump in on this, but I have not even finished Heavenswood yet, so it's probably be over by the time I get to it.
I really liked Heavenswood. I think that the Heavenswood had more sort of weight to me than Stormblood did. Stormblood didn't have quite the same sort of resonance because you travel to so many weird places that you don't feel that attached to.
Yeah.
But in Heavenswood, you spend a lot more time like trying to make yourself at home, I think. Although the main city in Stormblood is gorgeous.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's
Heavenswood, pretty much just a big pile of granite.
Yeah, it's just big and grey. It's kind of dull. But,
it's kind of dull, but it's also realistic for all that, I feel. Whereas the one in Stormblood is more fantastical.
Yep. So yeah, no word on how long this event's going to last for. So get in and get yourself a Rathalos to sit on and while you can. We're just going to have to go and kill Behemoth when it turns up.
Mm-hmm.
Which we will do.
Has anybody given any comment on that sort of parity between skeletons?
Oh yeah, a lot of the long-time fans, the moment they saw that Behemoth, goes, "Oh, yep, Zinogre confirmed." So yeah, Behemoth actually has a very similar shape and structure to Zinogre, everybody's favourite giant lightning dog thing. So yeah, don't be surprised if they reuse that skeleton in the very near future.
Was that already in the game files?
No idea.
I would have thought somebody would have data mined it by now.
Yeah, they probably have, but it's not something I've looked into at this point. Alright, I've got one other article there, but I'm not really sure I want to go into it. Actually, there's a couple. Do you want to talk about Trogdor the board game?
I don't know anything about Trogdor the board game.
It's Trogdor, and it's a board game. What else do you need to know?
But Fern, there are tiny thatch houses in this one. You can't play it. You'll have it PTSD.
Fern, I think you're going to have to face the facts that this is actually a game for old people now.
Good grief,
because
why?
Nobody knows about Homestar Runner anymore.
Why would you do this?
Yeah, dude, like...
That
was... Homestar Runner was also the AIM age, of which nobody talks about anymore, because we're old.
Yeah. Well, also because AIM was bad. That was a dark spot on history, and has been replaced by the dark spot that is Twitter.
But yeah, so basically this game exists only for old nostalgic people.
Yeah.
Which is no comment is being made on the game per se, because I don't know anything about the game per se, but what I do know is that Homestar Runner is not a thing anymore.
It kind of is. They make maybe one video a year these days.
At most. That's not the same thing as being a thing.
No, it is not.
Yeah. That's more of an homage to their fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Matt Chapman, one of the authors, is off making stuff with Disney Channel last seen. He worked on Gravity Falls while that was happening, and I don't know where he's gone these days.
At least Gravity Falls was probably the least disastrous of the new cartoon wave we've gotten.
Just avoid Cartoon Network, folks. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be.
They all look the same to me.
Bad.
They all got the same odious art style, and that includes Gravity Falls. Like, people keep telling me that it's good, but the fact is that when I look at it, it looks the same as all the other.
It's like you handed a Western artist a picture of a chibi character from Japan, and they said, "What?" And your boss said, "Westernize that."
Yeah.
And they screwed it up horribly when they tried. That's what the current modern art style is like.
The boss is a douche.
It's just so bad.
Alright, in that case, shall we start winding down then? Unless you want to wail on Star Citizen, but I think that's just beating a dead horse at this point.
I think that everybody knows that Star Citizen is a scam. Like, there's no point in us. If there are people that still don't believe me when I say Star Citizen is a scam at this point, after everything that's happened, there's not going to be any way of convincing them. They are too invested.
Yep.
The juicier story with this is yet to come when we see if anything shakes out from this.
Yeah. So in short, we'll just quickly touch on it. Is one investor has taken Star Citizen's developers to court because they want a refund, and Star Citizen's backwards, goofy policies mean that it needs to be arbitrated. And he's also already lost because the judge has agreed that that goofy new policy actually applies to him, even though it's retroactive.
Yeah. I don't know how the law works wherever Star Citizen's legal department will have to fight people.
Yeah, so just don't. Just don't. I know there's been a lot of people out there who've been trying to get refunds for a long time, and most of them have been hitting a wall. So if that doesn't say scam, I don't know what does.
They rigged their terms, their licensing terms, in order to make it almost impossible to get your money back.
Yes.
They did it covertly without announcement as well. Like, everything that they did screamed scam. There's no excuse for it. Nobody's ever managed. Like, even the Star Citizen Defense Force have nothing but platitudes now. Like, they don't.
Yeah.
I don't think that they genuinely believe that Star Citizen is a thing.
Yeah. There is something playable of it, but I don't know. It's not what was promised at this point.
It doesn't matter what it's promised. It's not what however many millions of dollars buys.
Exactly.
Like,
all I can see on the
not
screenshots,
going to get your money's worth.
Yeah, I've seen the screenshots and it looks pretty, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. There's plenty of garbage games that look pretty.
You can hire an artist for a week and make something pretty, but that's not going to cost you millions and millions of dollars.
Hiring Mark Hamill for no apparent reason does, though.
He's actually pretty cheap as a voice actor, from what I've heard.
He's not the only one they've hired, though.
What else is he doing with his time? Destroying the Star Wars franchise?
He hates what's been done to it.
Yeah, I know, but he's still a participant.
He's still banking that paycheck.
It is a very hard performance to watch.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish it. I couldn't finish the movie because it was just heartbreaking seeing Hamill do his God-given best to try and make Luke stay Luke, but it's just that whole thing takes place in a separate universe. It literally can't happen in the old Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
well, it was written to destroy the old Star Wars universe. Like, that explicitly was their objective. The producer said that she has absolutely no interest in catering to Star Wars fans.
Hasn't she been thrown out now?
Well, they're desperately looking for somebody to pick up the franchise, but they can't find anybody willing to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yes.
Can you imagine how people would have clamoured for the opportunity once upon a time?
Oh, incredibly, yeah. Everyone would have been trying to get into it.
Now people can't stand to be seen with it.
It is perhaps the only time in history when it would be a great idea for a company to come out and retcon a movie.
You'd have to retcon a few movies.
Yeah, it's really... I don't know what they could do to fix it. I don't think anybody would accept it.
Yeah,
I think that you would need to let it go to seed for at least as long as it did between the previous trilogy and this current one before you could try again. Like, I think that there's no saving it right now outside of a character waking up and finding out the past two movies were all a dream.
And then Jar Jar Binks turns up.
Jar Jar Binks would be an improvement at this point.
Yes, he would.
I'll gladly take Jar Jar over Episode 8. Tar Dinks.
Tar.
Oh, Jar Jar.
All right. Let's start wrapping up then, shall we?
Alrighty. Let's see. What can we give you guys? Don't talk to me about WoW. Most of it was game-specific stuff, so no email topic of the week. I'm not going to be here to read it anyway. Closing comments, go.
Maple Story 2. I wish I could hate it completely outright. It would make things so much simpler. But the core gameplay is actually pretty fun when the controls work properly. So,
nice.
But yeah, it's got problems, and it's problems they're going to have to really work on before they launch. Also, community creations, bad.
Well, I'm mostly surprised that they aren't all penises.
I'm thankful that is not the case, but
I am sure an appreciable fraction are.
Yeah. Like, I saw I think it was one point there was a box that was covered in pictures of Michael Cera. I mean, why?
What?
Yeah. Waifu Cube was bad. That one I just left it pass without comment.
What?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to show you some of these things I think off the stream.
As far as I can tell, this game really is designed to make a person's brain just completely stall out.
This is what happens when you let the community decide things that appear in the main game instead of locked away in their own little world.
What? But isn't Beyond Good and Evil supposed to capitalize on that?
Yes.
Weren't they bragging about that at E3?
Yes. Think about that for a minute, and now to spare. You know, every poster in that game is going to contain some variety of meme. Try not to hiccup at that point.
Could be worse. It could be Terra General Chat.
You should not put memes in games.
Please don't.
Ever. Because it makes your game look ridiculously dated within like a month.
Yeah.
And everybody that sees after that point will just cringe. There will only be cringe. Now and forever. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Just all of the cringe.
Shanoa, how many dudes did you kill during the show? 3,139. That's not bad.
Fun.
I killed 13,000 as Gawain and 16,000 as Liz.
Oh, what on earth fresh hell is this? Anyway, so that's that.
Yep.
I wish I could hate this game outright, but I can't at this point.
What? Why not? What's stopping you?
Because, yeah, the core gameplay is still kind of enjoyable.
But it doesn't want you to enjoy it.
I'm just
it
waiting
resents you enjoying it.
I don't think I've played it quite enough to hit that grind wall. And I know it's coming because it's, you know, a Korean MMO. You can't not have the grind wall.
Oh. I told you not to, dude. Tried to warn you, but you didn't listen.
Sorry, my goodness.
All right, I think we're done for this week, folks. I will see you in a little over half a month, and they will see you next week. Sayonara, bye-bye.